Experimental for patch 127 is here, and it's not what anyone expected, because while its primary focus was supposed to be on stability and balancing, they've went and also added way more assets, entire new locations, mechanical reworks, and so much more. And here I'm going to give it all up like I was trying to get out of a speeding ticket. If you liked the video, please leave a like or a subscribe, it genuinely helps me out. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Oh, well, this demonstration isn't going to work. Whoops. Before we get into the other cool stuff, let's start off with the new locations and environmental adjustments. The east coast of Sakal has been a focal point for this update, and they've changed quite a few things. Existing places have been expanded, giving them more depth and offering better looting opportunities with additional buildings and even replacement buildings in some places. Bykovo, which in my accent sounds like a really weak cold medicine, Bykovo Hamlet has grown into a full-fledged village, as you can see here, adding more areas to scavenge and a little more to explore, and it has just as much detail as the other surrounding villages. On top of that, smaller locations have been sprinkled across the coastline and across Sakal's wilderness. You'll notice snowy variants of broken down houses scattered across the mountains now as you traverse them, and as all buildings, they actually provide loot, which can make those off the beaten path travels a little more worthwhile. Another thing they've added to the coastal areas, such as the islands and peninsula, are these small bunkers. Now, these are the bunkers taken and repurposed from Livonia, but they look really good. You can lock the doors when you're inside, and they have these cool little windows that you can adjust as well, and you can also lock them and fire through them. I can already see the amount of mods we're gonna get and the amount of people who are gonna have these in their bases. In addition to these changes, the ice caps have been adjusted too, because DayZ has added buoys. Oh, I think somewhere a priest just went and bought Sakal, or buoys depending on where you're from. The addition of buoys make navigation easier because they now show you where the breaks in the ice are and actually lead you to places. This is just so much easier, and I didn't really know how much we needed this until I used them myself. Oh, and they also light up, which is really apparent and useful of a night. Meanwhile, Borakan Island, oh, there's that cough medicine again, has undergone some changes. A deforestation pass has cleared out certain areas, making the island a bit more dangerous to traverse. You'll have less natural cover, so you're now way more exposed. My favorite addition and new favorite place to visit is here, because they've also added a shipwreck off the coast of Shantar Island. This shipwreck is broken in two pieces and filled with guns, ammo, and military gear. Plus, there's a space for a fire too, making its journey a little less risky should you decide to do it. But it doesn't just look really good, it actually has a purpose. Not only does it have some really good loot, somewhat similar to Riffy, but seems to be missing a few high tier guns, but it also has these little keys. These keys are now required to open military shipping containers that wash up on the shore, which are basically one of Sakal's dynamic events, with each colour corresponding to a colour of lock on the containers themselves. These containers now seem to spawn a lot more loot, the tier of which seems to be more random, but I would say the trip is worth it. They also now have a unique camo print, but be careful, using the wrong key by not matching the colour will result in the key instantly breaking. And lastly, on the location and environmental changes, to give players more clarity about the cold, outdoor thermometers have been added to Sakal. These static tools allow you to check the temperature and better understand why your character might be freezing even if the weather looks sunny. This small touch adds a layer of realism to managing your survival in DayZ's frigid environments, and you can find them all over the place. Quite a cool little addition. Next up, the developers have focused on extending the convenience introduced with the recent bandaging updates. Just as you can now bandage multiple wounds in one go, repairing items has received a similar upgrade. This change will save you time and reduce frustration during those tense survival moments when every second counts. Here's a list that this change applies to. They've also changed a lot of animations with them too, so general survival just looks and feels much smoother and more immersive. Animal behavior has also been adjusted. Domestic animals like cows, goats, and sheep are now more skittish and likely to run away when approached. This adds a bit of challenge to hunting, forcing players to be more strategic in their movements. On the other hand, fishing has been made less effective when using improvised tools, expected to take longer and yield fewer results unless you're properly equipped, and even then it still feels like it's been nerfed and takes a lot longer. And eating with bloodied hands will get you sick with the appropriate illness, which makes fish way less damaging. However, you should still wash your hands. Speaking of the water, boats now have a decay mechanic. If they're left unused for too long, they'll disappear, allowing new boats to spawn in accessible locations. This makes sure there's a steady availability of boats for players without cluttering the map. Server admins can customize this feature, giving community servers flexibility in how they manage boat spawns. Inventory management has also seen a decent overhaul. Many backpacks now include extra tool slots, allowing players to carry a bit more. This seems to be limited though: shovels, crowbars, pickaxes and other similar sized weapons, but anything larger such as a sledgehammer for example needs one of the normal slots. Additionally, the glow stick and radio slots have been adjusted to accept a wider range of items, and sometimes more than one. This might seem like a small change, but after spending a few hours playing around with it, they're actually extremely useful. Okay, so this next change sounds like it's not important, but I guarantee you this will be one of the biggest killers of players if not known about, because sound design received significant attention. Starting with the less impactful changes, boats are quieter now, making them less obtrusive during gameplay, so you can better hear your friends, unless you don't have any. No amount of sound reduction will help you then. But to balance this out, boats can now also be heard from farther away. But more importantly, and somewhat more dangerously, footsteps have been adjusted to be more noticeable, particularly at medium ranges. Where they might have previously been drowned out by environmental sounds, you'll almost certainly be heard by players if you're not careful. The infected footsteps are super loud now too, but I'm assuming this will be nerfed with balancing, because it kind of breaks immersion when you can hear one from two houses over. Forests now feature new sound effects such as walking through trees, making a whooshing sound, and walking on cluttered ground too, making footsteps there way more distinguishable. Another thing that's way more distinguishable now is the gunfire, which has also been updated with improved bullet crack sounds and enhanced audio for SMGs, with each one now feeling more unique. This is a really good improvement. They honestly do sound better. Cold weather brings another level of realism. Your character's teeth will chatter audibly when they're freezing. It's something you're going to hear a lot on Sakal. On the visual side, there are several new particle effects. Snow now falls off trees when you interact with them, and explosions on snowy terrain have their own unique visual effect. The breath vapor effect has been completely overhauled to better reflect the cold environment. Even details like vomiting and bleeding have been given visual updates. Firearms have also received new particle effects. These updates contribute to a more immersive experience overall, particularly in high-stakes encounters. And there's nothing better to have in those high-stakes encounters than a good gun. So the VSD has a new variant which looks super cool. You can only find it in the bunker on Sakal, but it's not just a new skin, it's actually shaped differently too. It just looks the part, and it's a cool little addition to a patch that was only supposed to be a small patch of balances and quality of life improvements. But one thing players have been asking for a while is updated AI. And to hear what the devs have said about the upcoming infected changes, click here, or for something else, click here. And as always, until next time.